Have you ever found yourself holding your hands together on stage, sticking them in your pocket, not sure really what you should be doing with them, these beautiful appendages that came with us? It's so common. And we spend so much time trying to craft our speeches, sometimes we forget that we need to craft the choreography that is going to support it. And this is why today we're speaking about body language for speakers. Our job as a speaker really is to captivate the audience. We're being hired in to keep the attention of these beautiful people that have signed up to be at a conference or be online with us. And we need to take that role seriously. Yes, we are here to educate. We are here to inspire. We are here to entertain. But more importantly, we are here to captivate. We are here to leave people changed. We're here to drag them down the rabbit hole with us, bring them into our world, expose them to what we have seen, heard, and learned, so that they leave that room changed forever. And if you've done a good job with using this amazing toolkit that you have, you will be able to captivate your audience. So we're going to learn how to use these different pieces that come with us to our conferences. They come with us to our webinars. They come with us everywhere. And even if you are self-conscious of your body, this is going to help you to feel more comfortable using it. So there's 3 pieces that I want you to think about today. First is your voice. Second is your body. And third is how you move your body through space. Now, a lot of you know that I have a professional dance background. Yes, I can still kick my ear up beside my head. I have a different intelligence in my body. But what I'm going to show you today doesn't require that intelligence. It requires some thought, some choreographing of your speech, rehearsal. And when you do all those things, you will be able to captivate. You will also feel very comfortable on stage, very comfortable holding your audience's attention without having to have other external tools other than your body. So one of the things I want you to think about when you're designing your speech is to engage the senses. When people can see, hear, smell, feel what you were feeling in a story, then suddenly everything around them disappears and they are laser focused on you. What was happening in their day starts to float away and they start getting dragged down that rabbit hole into the world that you were existing in. So let's go through our senses. First, we have sight. When we're storytelling, we want to paint a picture of what we were seeing. Talk about that environment that you were in. Let people see the story through your eyes. Let them hear the sounds that you were hearing. There's so many beautiful descriptors that we can be using to create a story that feels like poetry, that has people so engaged. And sound is something that we sometimes forget. We think that the sound comes from our voice, but we can be describing the sounds around us to also encourage them to come down the rabbit hole with us. Then we also have taste. There's lots of sensations that happen in our mouth that we can be using to describe as well. And then smell. Smell is something that anchors us so beautifully. So if you can describe the smells that people in your audience can relate to, that can also engage them. And then touch. What did things feel like? What were you feeling in your body? What were you feeling around you? And then, most important, is energy. That's your sixth sense. How can they feel what you're feeling? How can you send your energy into the audience? How can you pull it away? How can you give your audience goosebumps or move them to tears? You can't do it without engaging their senses. If you are just using your words and you're standing there like a stick, or you're holding yourself in the various ways that we've invented, or you're attached to the podium, it's really hard to engage their senses. And so we want to start really using better descriptors and also share our energy with them. And those 3 parts I talked about are how you're going to do that. So the first is voice. Second is our physical bodies. And third is how we use the space. We want to have variety in what we're doing. We want to change shape often in what we're doing. We want our voice to change shape. We want our shape to move on the stage so that we create a lot of variety, visual variety for people to engage with. That's why it's so hard when you are stuck behind a podium to have people stare at you the whole time. They'll get uncomfortable and they'll start writing things down, or they stare at your PowerPoint. So if you can be free of your podium and step out and let people see all of you, that's where you're going to get more of that captivation. So let's talk about how to modulate your voice. So we are speakers. This is our biggest tool that we are used to using. And I'll be honest, as a professional dancer, I'm really, really comfortable with my body, but using my voice is something I am really uncomfortable with. And I know for the rest of you, it's probably the reverse. So I get it, except I'm on the other side of the problem. So after I lost my ability to practice as a dentist and started speaking again, it took a lot out of me, and I still have anxiety behind the scenes. When I'm waiting to go on stage, I will feel absolute panic and I'll be shaking, and sometimes I'm like, where's the exit? Can I just go? And I have to use these tools that I'm showing you to be able to ground myself and be comfortable with what I'm putting out there. So with our voice, we can use volume in many different ways. A lot of times when we're excited, we get louder and louder and get in people's faces. And that can make people go, ugh, it's a little bit too much for me, and they want to back away from you. That can actually be a good tool to wake them up. It can also be a good tool to put them on edge because you're trying to push them out of their comfort zone. And then you can also soften the volume. And when you do that, it tends to draw people into you. They lean in because they don't know what's going to come next. And they have to be listening very carefully to hear what you're going to say. And of course, we don't want to just have really loud and really soft. We want to have lots of different levels in between there so that we create variety in our voice. Pitch is another part. So some people will actually speak monotone, like they're just reading from a book, and they're really not that interesting to listen to. It's really hard to keep in tune because they have the same pace and they have the same pitch. So we want to be able to have ups, we want to be able to have downs, so that it is almost like we're taking them on this roller coaster with our voice, because when we don't know what to expect, we tune in. When it becomes the same, and you can take the same roller coaster over and over again and you will become monotone to them, even if you're not holding the same note the whole time. And then speed. Again, when we get excited, we talk a little bit faster. Sometimes we get louder, but sometimes we just talk faster. And that can create excitement, that can create energy. And then being able to go slower. And use the pause. And let something hit. Let people think. And when there's a pause, they lean in. Again, because they don't know what's coming next. They don't know when it's actually going to come. And so they want to know what that next thing is that you're going to say. And so our voice is an amazing tool that we can be using. My favorite tool, though, is our physical bodies. And you don't have to be super coordinated to use your body well, but you need to think it through. Our bodies are extremely good at emoting. You can see someone from across a room and not even see their face, and you can feel what their body is feeling. You can see if they're happy, you can see if they're scared, you can see if they're defeated, you can see if they're confident. And when we tell our stories, we want our body, we want our voice, we want our spatial use to all match what we're trying to convey. Because if it doesn't, then it feels incongruent and we feel like there's something off. We feel like there might be a little lie in there. Maybe you're telling someone else's story, or maybe your story isn't really true. So we need to make sure that everything that we're presenting is congruent with the story. So with our physical bodies, we have three main parts. Our face, which is awesome because we can make so many different shapes. Look at that slide. Look at how many different facial expressions that girl can make. You have all those in your face as well. And I know we want to be attractive on stage. We want people to get good pictures of us so that we have things that we can add to our portfolio. But for the audience, keeping a beautiful face becomes monotone. So I want you to be able to scrunch up your face. I want you to be able to open your eyes big. I want you to be able to narrow them. I want you to be able to make your face beautiful, but also ugly. Because when we're naturally speaking, we go through all these pieces. But if we're standing in front of a mirror or studying ourselves on video, we are very likely to try and stay perfect. Perfect is boring. And when I was dancing professionally, my coach had to really work on making my face ugly. I had to choreograph that into my dancing so that I would do it when I was on stage. Otherwise, I would get on stage and be like, oh, I want to be so pretty. And it doesn't work. It doesn't make you interesting to watch. And then we have our spine. Oh, our spines? This is an amazing toolkit that shows so much of what is going on in your world. Our spines can come down, they can come up, our pelvis can tilt, it can come in, and I'm going to show you when I go through these three pieces how 4 different motions work with the 3 pieces. But our spine tells so much about what's going on. And then we have, our limbs. Our favorite part. We don't know what to do with these things. We don't know what to do with our legs sometimes. I've seen people inchworm across stages. I've seen them completely freeze. I've seen them rush up and down the stage like they're in an army. And it doesn't have to be complicated. But our limbs, if you keep them asymmetrical, so instead of matching everything the same way every time, which yes, you're changing shape, but you're not changing shape in an interesting way. If you can be changing shape one piece at a time, rotation as well, that will help to create a more interesting person to watch on stage. That will help you to captivate the audience. So let's go through 4 emotions and go through these 3 different pieces. So I'm going to do happy, I'm going to do betrayed, I'm going to do confident, as well as fearful. So if I think about something that makes me really happy, there's a few things that happen. So my face obviously lights up. When I'm really happy, I close my eyes in the moment as well. But my face goes into a smile. My forehead opens up. My shoulders relax. But look at what happens with my spine as well. So if I'm just standing neutral, and then I think about something happy, what happens is my chest raises, my pelvis stays pretty neutral, my shoulders open and go backwards. So we have this change from neutral to happy. That really exposes our heart. We expose our face more, we open our face, we open our chest. And my legs, I know you can't see my legs right now, but when I go from neutral, which is a little bit in bended knee, when I think about happy, I feel my legs actually grow as well. So pay attention to that. When you're telling stories of happiness in your speech, record yourself and see if your body actually matches that happiness, or have you become monotone in your presentation. The second emotion, let's go through betrayal. So if I think about when someone betrayed me, my face, I can feel the muscles go down. I can feel tension in between my eyebrows. I feel tension in my jaw. And I actually feel myself shrink, like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders. So from the side, if I go from neutral to betrayed, so my shoulders have come in, my rib cage has come down, my pelvis has actually tucked in. So I'm actually protecting myself from the front side. My knees bend as well. So if you look from the side, you'll see I actually get shorter. When we have the weight of the world on our shoulders, we look like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. The third emotion is confidence. So if I think about something that makes me feel confident, so my face goes into a little bit of a smile, but not the same kind of smile as I felt when I was feeling extremely happy about something. My forehead does open, my shoulders relax, but look at what happens to my spine. So from neutral to feeling confident. So my spine grew, but unlike happiness, my spine didn't actually go into a bend. So my rib cage didn't lift up. My pelvis stayed neutral, my legs did grow, but not the same way that they did in happiness. So when we feel confident, we feel peace. We're in the flow. We feel very in control, and our body should show that. And then let's look at fear. So if I think about something that I was scared about, what happens is I have this tension between, like major tension here. My jaw gets tight, my shoulders get tight, my legs get tight. I feel like I'm ready to fly. So when, this is how I feel before I go on stage to speak. So my body is in that fight or flight position. Everything is armed and ready to go. So if you look at my spine from the side, when I feel fear, so I don't go into that same protection like I did when I was feeling disgruntled or betrayed. It comes down a little bit, but it's more everything is going and turning on, ready to fight. My legs are bent, but my legs actually go really, really tense, whereas when I feel defeated, the muscles are actually quite soft. So when you're telling stories with these different emotions, again, record it. When you need to practice this, have someone look at you, and if you can't pull it out on the camera, have them look at you and see what changes. Have them look at you from different angles, from going from neutral into whatever that emotion is. And it is subtle, but that is that energy transference that gives those goosebumps. That's that congruence that we want in our story, so that our body matches what we're telling the audience, so that they go, this is very believable. I know that they went through this. We don't ever want them having any doubt about what we are actually trying to present, because then they're not on our side anymore, no matter how captivating you try to be. And then the third thing in our toolkit, the third piece of our toolkit is spatial modulation. Now, when you're starting out as a speaker, oftentimes you're going to be told, okay, so you got to make sure you go this way, plant, tell someone something, and then as you finish that concept, then you can turn, plant, you can turn, move towards someone, plant, and give your delivery. So that is a good starting point, but I want you to take it a little bit further, because we don't want to look like every other speaker out there. Our story, without hearing the words, should not visually look the same as everybody else's, because we're telling a different story. We're trying to drag them down a different rabbit hole than someone else has been down. So there's a few things you can do. One of them is approach. So you can come up to your audience, whether you're on camera or on stage, and you can actually wake the audience up. You can get them on the defensive. You can push your energy towards them. And that can be effective when you're trying to drive that point home, or you're trying to elicit a reaction inside them. If you're trying to be in a softer moment, or you're trying to describe one of those negative emotions, those sadder emotions, then you're probably actually going to retreat. When I think about when I feel shy in a situation, this is literally what happens in my body, but I will actually move away from the situation. And so that is another good approach. And what happens is when you pull away, is just like when you get quiet or you talk more slowly, then you are able to draw people into your story more. So you can go forward, you can go back. Obviously you can go sideways as well, but the forward and the back are what actually change the energy towards the people that are witnessing what you're putting out there. And then we can use the space to either engage with our audience or to allow them to witness. So when I'm engaging you right now, I'm talking to you, I'm talking into the camera so that you know that I'm actually trying to get this to you. Obviously, if we're talking from the stage, we're going to be hitting our points at different times with different people. But there's times when you want people to not have you directly engage with them. You may want them to actually just witness what is going on. So you may take your vision out and not look at them and have that internal moment. You may actually be telling a story where there's multiple people involved and you are playing a character in one position and then you're playing a character in another position so that you have the ability, you can even do it with turning your head, to convey that this is you, this is someone else, or this is you at a certain point and this is you at another point in time. And you're having this conversation happening. There's this dialogue happening. So again, we have these amazing tools. We have our voice, we have our physical bodies, and we have how we use the stage. So let's use these tools. So I'm going to tell you a little story. And I want you to see if you can pick out the different pieces that I talked about just now so that you can start going, oh yeah, I can do this. Pretty much everything that I do, except for one thing, which you'll notice at the end, any body can actually do it. So the story that led up to this is that I had started having pain in my drilling hand, the kind of pain that makes you stop and vomit. And so I'm just going to give you a few of the lines from that speech so that you can see if you can come down the rabbit hole with me. The previous 3 months, I had been in more pain than I ever had been in my life. And my arm felt like there was razor blades in my blood. And it all came to a head on a Thursday morning when it was time to suture up a patient that I'd worked on for the past 5 hours. I reached for my hemostat with my right hand, and when I turned it over, my hemostat wasn't there. So I reached again, asked my hand to pick up the cold instrument, and it wouldn't listen. I looked over at my assistant and motioned for her to step out of the room. And I told her, well, you know the problem I've been having with my hand the last few months? It's not working at all right now. So here's what we're going to have to do. You're going to have to be my right hand. I'm going to use my left hand. And we're going to get the patient put back together and safe. Cool? She turned to me with eyes like saucers. And then we took a deep breath in and we walked back into the room. I picked up the hemostat with my left hand. I clipped my needle. I threw my first stitch. And it worked. And we got the patient put back together and safe. And of course, we let the patient know that everything had gone perfectly according to plan. But as the door closed behind her, I felt my body flood with adrenaline because today something had shifted. So when I'm telling that story, if you could see me up close, you will see the changes in my facial expressions. You hear the change in pace. You hear the change in tone. You hear lots of things happening with my voice, but you also see the physical body telling the story. And it's very different than me just standing and relating the story. Most people in dentistry could picture this happening and it would be their absolute worst nightmare. But by bringing in that physicality, doing the walking, picking the instrument up, talking to my assistant, letting you witness the story, allows you to have a very different experience than if I just used my voice and used my words, no matter how well choreographed my words were. So I know some of you are probably thinking, but Angela, this sounds really uncomfortable, and you're a professional dancer. How am I supposed to do this? It's a learnable skill. I'm not asking you to do body rolls. Yes, you may not be able to do this, but everything else that I did, the pantomiming, the moving through space, the use of my voice, the way I engage the senses with the story, is all something you can do. So how do you start? How do you start anything? You just got to start. So what I suggest is once you have your visual script set or choreographed, then start looking at how you can bring the physicality into it. Where are the moments where your spine will change so that your energy towards the audience changes? Where can you use your voice better to allow the emotion to come through? Where can you actually walk and let that support what your story is about, or actually staying completely still when there's that really big moment of tension where you want people to be completely zoned in, you want them to just be in that moment with you, not worrying about, is she going to step funny on the stage and slip? So choreograph it, and then practice it. Practice it in the costume that you're going to be in. Practice it in the shoes that you're going to be in. Practice it on a floor similar to a stage. If it's carpeted, practice on carpet so you're going to have that same feel. But the more you do it the same way every time, the more you're actually going to set yourself up for success. You're also going to be able to use the physicality that you choreograph as your cue cards. I've had moments on stage where I've blanked and suddenly I'm looking up. I'm like, oh yeah, I know where I am because I only do this once in my speech, or I only do this once in my speech. And so I know exactly what part of my story happens with that physical cue that I've given myself. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to pull on those physical cues because no one knows. They just thought that you took maybe a dramatic pause and then you picked up where you left off. When you're in speaking competitions, you're under a lot of pressure. And so if you have the ability to have that physical choreography because you aren't going to have that PowerPoint to support you and cue you to what is coming next, that is a beautiful thing. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. And the more you do it the same way, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. And when you can come on stage and you can drag people down the rabbit hole, when you can engage their senses, when you can create visual variety so that they don't even want to look down to write things down, even though you're educating them or inspiring them or entertaining them, that's when you've done your job and you are able to captivate. If you're stuck with this, and you're not sure how to bring this into your own speaking career, I'm always happy to hop on a call. You can send me an email at angela@unleashinginfluence.com. It has been an absolute pleasure being here, sharing how to use your body language to be a better speaker. Until next time, I wish you a beautiful day, and please continue to captivate.